Hello everyone. Let us start with the first chapter of biology of PUC first year, that is the living world. Okay. Now in this chapter is actually a very small chapter and a very easy chapter. So let us see what we are going to study in the living world. Okay. Now in this chapter, basically we are going to study the first point that we will study is what are the characteristics of living. Okay. So what are characteristics of living and what is living and what is non-living, right? So what is living basically? हम लोग जब बोलते हैं कि there is a living thing has some special features, has some special characteristics, right? And on that basis we say that some things are living and some things are non-living. So we are going to study what are the characteristics of living. Okay. Now there are so many different varieties, so many different types of animals, plants. Okay. Some organisms, when we talk about the organisms, living organisms, they are microscopic organisms, as well as there is a range of these there is a range of these organisms, from microorganisms till the largest of the mammal, that is the blue whale. So many organisms are present in so many different varieties of shapes and sizes and colors, and the different types of nutrition they have. So all these we are going to study in this topic, that is the living world. We will also see that what is taxonomy. In this chapter we will see what is binomial nomenclature. बाइनोमियल नॉमेनक्लेचर है वो क्या है, यहाँ पे देखेंगे टैक्सोनॉमी क्या है, क्लासिफिकेशन क्या है, हाउ द एनिमल्स आर क्लासिफाइड, okay, and what is a taxon. All these things we are going to study in this topic. So let us start with the first point, that is characteristics of living. Now when we say living, okay, conveniently हम लोग क्या देखते हैं कि living thing में कोई तो characteristics होने चाहिए, right? Now which kind of characteristics we are basically seeing over here is that all the living organisms, they basically grow, right? So the characteristics is the growth, right? Now when we talk about growth, or all the organisms that grow, growth होना मतलब क्या होना? Now growth means there might be increase in the body mass, okay, or there might be increase in the cell number, right? Each living organism is made up of a cell. Okay, you must have studied about a cell in your previous standards, in 8th standard, 9th standard, 10th standard. That cell is the basic fundamental unit of life. एक cell होता है. Some living organisms are called as unicellular, right? And some living organisms are categorized as multicellular organism. We know that unicellular means the whole body is made only of one single cell, which is microscopic in nature. For example, bacteria is a unicellular organism. Amoeba जो एक protozoa है, it is also unicellular. Paramecium, it is a protozoa, it is also unicellular in nature. But when we talk about multicellular, okay, all the big plants, all the higher animals, all the mammals, we, for example, humans, okay, we are all multicellular, where the body is basically made up of more than one cells, right? So those are multicellular organisms. Now when we talk about higher plants, when we talk about not higher plants, especially when we talk about higher animals and lower animals, or higher plants and lower plants, so here the increase in mass and increase in cell number, okay, this is going to represent the growth, right? A multicellular organism, when we say a multicellular organism grows by cell division, right? Suppose if there is a small plant, right, this small plant is going to grow होना मतलब क्या होना, उसके जो सेल्स है वो मल्टीप्लाई करेंगे, सेल का नंबर इंक्रीज होगा. सो व्हेन द सेल नंबर इंक्रीजेस, ऑब्वियसली द मास ऑफ द बॉडी विल आल्सो increase, right? So this we can say it is a twin character, right? In plant this is the growth by cell division, and this growth occurs throughout their lifespan. So some plants, they grow indefinitely, okay, indefinitely grow होते हैं. And but in case of animals, when we talk about Animals also shows cell division. They also show increase in the body mass, but this is to a limited period of time. Okay, this is up to a certain age we can say. Okay, एक certain age तक ही animals grow होते हैं, उसके बाद जो है they become old and then they finally die. But in case of plants, mostly it is seen is that they are continuously growing, indefinitely growth is seen in case of the plant, right? Now, cell division is why so important. Cell division is important because if any tissue is lost, okay, or if there is any damage to the tissue, that damage can be overdone, right? That tissue or the cells can be replaced by the new cells. So that's why also the cell division is very, very important. Now, when we talk about the unicellular organisms, okay, let us talk about the unicellular organisms. When we say that the unicellular organism is growing, okay, here the growth, okay, that is, and the cell division go simultaneously. Cell division or growth and reproduction also we can say. So suppose if there is a bacterial cell, okay, how can we say that the bacteria has grown? We are not going to take the microscope and see whether the size of the bacterial cell has grown or not. What we are going to see is that how many bacteria are produced within a specific period of time, and then we will understand that the bacteria is growing in this culture medium or the bacteria is growing in this condition. So that is what is going to happen in case of the unicellular organism. तो इस cultures को हम लोग क्या बोलेंगे? In vitro cultures. In vitro मतलब in laboratory. Okay, in vitro cultures में बैक्टीरिया कितना ग्रो हुआ है just by counting the number of these cells under the microscope. Right now, in majority of the higher animals and plant, growth और reproduction जो है वो separate होता है, but in unicellular growth and reproduction is same. Okay, यहाँ पे growth हो रहा है मतलब क्या है कि cell का number increase हो रहा है, right? Bacterial cell number is increasing means उनका reproduction हो रहा है, उसकी वजह से cell number increase हो रहा है and they are also growing. So here growth and reproduction is same, but in higher plants and in higher animals we can say that growth, I will write here, growth and reproduction both are exclusive. Okay, both are going to be exclusive event. One must remember that increase in the body mass, okay, will be considered as the growth in case of the multicellular organisms. So this is how we can say that growth is a very, very important characteristics of the living. Okay, but if you see, mountains also ग्रो इन साइज. माउंटेन तो नॉन लिविंग है. कभी कभी सैंड ड्यून्स हम लोगों ने देखा होगा. सैंड ड्यून्स मतलब जो रेगिस्तान में जो सैंड के जो ड्यून्स रहते हैं. सो इफ मोर एंड मोर सैंड कम्स एंड गेट्स कलेक्टेड एंड एक्यूमुलेटेड, द सैंड ड्यून्स आल्सो increase in size. Okay, it also increases in mass. So what we can say is that here growth cannot be taken as a defining property of living organism. Okay, conditions under which it can be observed in all living organism have to be explained, and then we can understand that it is a characteristic of a living system. Whereas a dead organism, when it is there, a dead organism cannot grow. It does not grow at all, right? So here, according to the syllabus, what is given in the syllabus is that growth cannot be considered as, what we can say, cannot be considered as a defining property of the living organisms. So this is the first characteristic. Let us see the second characteristic in case of the characteristics of living. Okay, so now the next characteristic that we will study is reproduction. This is the second characteristic. Reproduction. Okay, now reproduction is a characteristics of all the living organism, whether it is a unicellular organism or whether it is a multicellular organism. All the organisms are going to show reproduction. Right now, when we see here, what is reproduction? Reproduction means what? The parents, okay, are going to give rise to the new generation, to the new progeny we can say, or they are going to produce a new offsprings, okay, which looks like them, okay, which have the characteristics like them. So that is called as a reproduction, which is a biological process, right? But not only when we think of reproduction हमारे दिमाग में क्या आता है कि sexual reproduction आता है, but there are so many smaller animals, okay, there are so many animals that shows asexual reproduction also, and then there are animals which shows sexual reproduction also. Asexual reproduction means what? In case of asexual reproduction, okay, here first is that only one parent is involved, and this parent will give rise to the new generation, to the new offspring, okay. There is no need of production we can say, or formation of some specialized cells which are called as the gametes, okay. But in sexual reproduction it is not like that. In sexual reproduction, more than one parent is involved, and the parent should be of opposite sexes, okay. Male and female parents should be involved, and there is need in sexual reproduction, there is need of production of the gametes, okay. Gametes का production होना यहाँ पे important है male gametes and the female gametes. Coming to the next point, in case of asexual reproduction, जितने भी offsprings produce होते हैं यहाँ पे, they are clones of one another. Clones मतलब क्या? They are identical, they're exact identical copies of one another and exact identical copies of their parents also, right? तो उनके अंदर जो है, जो जीन्स के वेरिएशन होने चाहिए या फिर जेनेटिक वेरिएशंस जो होते हैं, there are genetic variations, or we can say genetic variations are lacking. Lacking means no genetic variations are present in them. Let us talk about the sexual reproduction now. Sexual reproduction में जो offsprings produce होते हैं, they are no clones of one another, and they are no clones of their parent. They are not exact identical copies. They look like them. अगर suppose हम लोग जो है for humans, okay, we are also produced by the process of sexual reproduction, but we have the characteristics. We look like our mother and father. We have a head, we have two hands, we have two eyes, one nose, 2 ears, all these characteristics we have, but we are not exact identical copies of our parents. We have the characteristics which are mixed, okay. And you can also see that sometimes some characteristics of our grandparents are also visible in the new offsprings. So here offsprings are not clones, and exactly opposite to this, that is the last point, genetic variations are lacking in asexual reproduction, but in case of sexual reproduction, genetic variations are present, okay. Genetic variations यहाँ पे होते हैं. Now when we talk about asexual reproduction, if you see in yeast, ओके, यीस्ट है या फिर हाइड्रा है, ओके. हाइड्रा जो है, इट इज अ सिलेंट्रेट, एंड इन हाइड्रा इट लुक्स समथिंग लाइक दिस. These are the tentacles of the hydra. It lives in water body, and this is the body of the hydra. Okay, and this is a mouth. तो hydra जो है, it asexually reproduces by the process of budding. Budding means a small bud grows on the wall of the parent body. It grows, it becomes adult on the parent body, and then it detaches from the parent body, and then it starts growing on its own. So this is called as budding, okay. Yeast, it is a unicellular fungus, okay. It belongs to the fungus kingdom. It is a kingdom. Now yeast also shows budding. एक yeast का cell होता है, it is a eukaryotic cell, and this cell starts showing the outgrowth, okay. This cell starts growing, increasing in size, and once the cell gets matured, this also gets detached from the parent body and grows on its own. Right, so this is shown in yeast and hydra. Now let us see some of the examples, some more examples of asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction में यहाँ पे Fragmentation is also seen. फ्रैगमेंटेशन दिखाई देता है. फिर और एक प्रोसेस होता है विच इज कॉल्ड एज अ गेम्यूल फॉर्मेशन. ओके, देन वेजिटेटिव propagation. This is also seen. Right now, if we see the example over here, and there is one more thing which is called as binary fission. Binary fission. Okay, now if we see over here, fragmentation. Okay, जो algae होते हैं, okay, which are unicellular plants. Okay, some algae are in the filamentous form. Filamentous मतलब ये algae जो है ऐसा thread like structure में present होता है. तो this algae shows asexual reproduction by the process of fragmentation. क्या होता है यहाँ पे? If suppose if some algae, okay, इसका body का part अगर detach हो गया, okay, if the cells get detached from the parent body, these cells which are detached, they will start giving rise to a complete new algal filament. So this is called as a fragmentation. मॉस होता है, मॉस इज अ ब्रायोफाइट. मॉस का जो प्रोटोनेमा स्टेज होता है, दिस प्रोटोनेमा स्टेज ऑल्सो शोज द फ्रैगमेंटेशन प्रोसेस. तो वो भी जो है फ्रैगमेंटेशन से ग्रो होता है. मॉस फिलहाल यहाँ पे हम लोग डिटेल में डिस्कस नहीं करेंगे. व्हेन द प्लांट किंगडम स्टार्ट्स यू विल गेट टू नो अबाउट द मॉस इन क्लियर डिटेल्स. ओके, देन एक लेट अस टेक द एग्जांपल ऑफ फ्रैगमेंटेशन. एक एग्जांपल है प्लेनेरिया. Planaria जो है it is a flatworm. Okay, and what happens in planaria, it looks something like this. It also lives in water and it is an animal. Okay, moss जो है it is a plant. Algae जो है filamentous हम लोगों ने अभी जो पढ़ा है that is also plant, but planaria is actually a flatworm. Suppose if planaria gets an accident, okay, it goes through an accident, and if its body get cut into some small fragments, okay, उसके cells में इतनी capacity होती है कि this will grow into a new planaria which is called as regeneration process, and this segment will also grow into a न्यू प्लेनेरिया. सो यहाँ पे प्लेनेरिया में क्या दिखाई दे रहा है? रीजनरेशन दिखाई दे रहा है, विच इज ऑल्सो असेक्सुअल रिप्रोडक्शन. इन स्पॉन्जेस, जो स्पॉन्जेस होते हैं, पॉरीफेरा किंगडम को फाइलम को बिलोंग करते हैं, सॉरी फाइलम पॉरीफेरा, दिस स्पॉन्जेस ऑल्सो शोज गेम्यूल फॉर्मेशन. गेम्यूल मतलब inside the body wall. If suppose this is a body wall, inside the body wall many small structures are formed, and these small structures are released outside during the favorable conditions, and each gamule which is formed, it will start giving rise to a new sponge body, right? So this is called as the gamule formation से भी asexual reproduction होता है. Then there is vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation means what? In vegetative propagation, if suppose एक लीफ है, okay, let us take the example, एक लीफ है, and this leaf, okay, some plant species has a property where उनका जो वेजिटेटिव पार्ट होता है बॉडी का, whether it is a leaf, whether it is a stem, whether it is a seed, okay, or whether it is a branch, from there it starts growing into a complete new plant body. So that is called as vegetative propagation. Okay, asexual reproduction in plants is called as vegetative propagation. And now let us see what is a binary fission. Binary means two. Okay, I will draw the diagram here. There is one cell, right? This one cell give rise to two daughter cells, right? So here again you can see there is only one parent involved over here, and this is giving rise to two daughter cells. So this is also asexual reproduction, which is a binary fission, right? So this was about the point of reproduction. Now let us see the third characteristics of the living organism, which is called as metabolism. Metabolism. Now what is this metabolism? Okay, metabolism जो होता है, it is the sum total of all the chemical reactions taking place in a cell, or we can say in an organism's body at any given time, that is called as metabolism. Now metabolism जो होता है वो basically क्यों important है? See, whenever we eat food, okay, whenever we eat food, suppose हम लोग चपाती खा रहे हैं, so that bread or that chapati is basically containing starch, it will contain carbohydrates, it will contain proteins, it will contain lipids or fats. तो ये जो है basically our body wants simple substances to consume, because our body wants to produce energy so that the organism can survive. But if we are consuming all these complex substances, right, these complex substances has to be broken down into simple substances, right? So this phenomenon where complex substances are broken down simpler substances is called as catabolism. Okay, and another thing, sometimes simple substances are used by the body, and these substances, they are converted into the complex substances, right? This is called as anabolism, right? This is called as anabolism. So this is what is happening over here, where the continuously catabolism and anabolism is happening inside the body at any given time. So catabolism plus anabolism, we can say it is metabolism. Okay, and metabolism is important because metabolism जो होता है, that is very much important to produce energy, to carry out the process of respiration. जितने भी chemical reactions होते हैं, all these chemical reactions are important for the living organism to survive and to sustain. Okay, so this is metabolism. Now metabolic reactions जो होते हैं, हम लोग जो है केमिस्ट्री लैब में भी रिएक्शंस करवाते हैं, टेस्ट ट्यूब में भी हम लोग रिएक्शंस करवाते हैं. सो मेटाबॉलिक रिएक्शंस कैन आल्सो बी कैरिड आउट इन अ cell free system, we can say. Cell free system means not inside the cell but outside the cell in a test tube. Okay, so in vitro reactions भी हम लोग करवा सकते हैं, but here in the test tube, we can say it is a non-living, or we cannot say whether it is a living reaction or whether it is a non-living reaction. तो अगर मेटाबॉलिज्म रिएक्शंस देखने हैं तो सेल के अंदर ही हम लोगों को मेटाबॉलिक रिएक्शंस जो है वो स्टडी करना पड़ेगा. ओके, सो दिस इज वन थिंग. नाउ हेंस वी कैन से दैट सेल्यूलर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जो होता है बॉडी का, because each organism is made up of cell तो होना ही है, whether it is a bacteria, whether it is an amoeba, whether it is a human, whether it is a dog, whether it is a cat, everyone's body, all living organisms body is made up of cell. So cellular organization of the body is, we can say, a defining feature of the life forms. So this is the statement. Okay, so this was about the third characteristics of the living. Let us see the last characteristic of the living, and then the point of the characteristics of living will be over. And in the next video lecture, we will discuss about biodiversity, we will discuss about taxonomy, hierarchy, what is taxonomical hierarchy, and everything. Now the last living feature, what we can say, is consciousness. Okay, so what is this consciousness basically? See, every living organism, okay, is going to respond or is always responding to some of the factors which are there inside the body as well as outside the body. Okay, whether it is temperature, right, whether it is hot or whether it is cold, whether it is the pressure in the surrounding, okay, then whether these are the physical factors or whether these are the chemical factors or whether these are the biological factors. So across or along towards all these factors, the organisms are going to respond. The organisms are going to get a stimuli and they are going to give a response. So all this thing which is going on, okay, when the light falls on our eyes, Okay, what we can do is that we can carry out a vision. Okay, this vision is basically sensed in our brain. Okay, the central nervous system, the brain, it carries out the vision. So here what we are doing is basically we are responding to the light. Okay, sometimes during the night time, okay, when there is complete dark, we cannot see anything. Okay, but in the moonlight, again, when we are walking in the moonlight, we can at least see something. So this is what is going on continuously, where the body is giving a conscious response. So this is called as a consciousness. Okay, human being is the only animal or is the only creature who is self aware. Self aware matlab हम लोग दिखते कैसे हैं, हम लोग व्हाट वी आर वेयरिंग, व्हाट आई एम डूइंग। ओके, सेल्फ कॉन्शियसनेस जो रहता है, ओके, जो स्पिरिचुअल कॉन्शियसनेस जो रहता है हमारे खुद के ऊपर, जो एक सेंस रहता है, सो दैट इज कॉल्ड सेल्फ कॉन्शियसनेस। सो ह्यूमन बीइंग इज द ओनली ऑर्गेनिज्म who is aware of himself, that he has self consciousness. But बाकी के अगर living organisms देखोगे तो everyone has a consciousness, and everyone is aware of what the things are happening outside as well as what the things are happening inside the body. So these are all the characteristics of the living. I hope you have understood. I hope, please note down all these things, and in the next video class we will start a point, that is diversity in the living world. All right, so thank you so much everyone for watching the video, and I hope you have noted down all the things that we have discussed over here. Thank you.